It's like, you know John Lennon and a girl didn't sleep in a bathtub.
Maybe not.
I am a mad lad.
That's not coffee in this mug.
Yeah, we are just drinking water.
Yeah, water. I'm Wes Martin.
My name is New Hong.
And welcome to Appetite for Music. And today, we are talking about
The Beatles.
Rubber Soul. This is actually quite an important album in a lot of ways in music history, and in rock history too.
Yeah, sure.
And to realize why it's so important, I think we gotta talk a little bit about the context of this album, and like where it came from in the Beatles, like discography.
Yeah. Well, maybe we start with Cher Stadium Show.
It was the beginning in 1965, right?
Early. And they were, most biggest band even at the time.
Like ever in the world.
In the world.
And they were having to do so many dates and just like tour so much that it was like really starting to get to them, especially with all the filming schedules. And it was well known that John Lennon actually wrote "Help" literally as like "help me. I'm like dying under this stress."
Even before Help, he made a song, "A Hard Day's Night." Well, it's talking to a girl, but I'm having way too hard days,
Which is why he wrote Norwegian Wood. But anyway, so they're getting to be the biggest band in the world, and they're touring so much that they can't stand it. And there was a lot of like strange things happening on their tours.
Yeah.
So they wanted to get into the studio a little bit, and they wanted to
experiment
with different things.
So start with this experience. Paul McCartney already write yesterday for the album Help, and that was the first song they ever use other instrument than guitar,
and especially like
drum.
electric guitar, because most of their songs, and they were experimenting with the most advanced techniques in electric guitars. That yesterday was a shock because it was a step back from rock and roll. And this album is a step further away from the early rock and roll that they were doing, and a little bit in the direction of folk music, especially influenced by Bob Dylan. Especially Bob Dylan. So speaking of the tracks, why don't we go through the track list and see just what is on this classic gem. This is the CD version, and actually this is a Korean printing of the CD, isn't it? So we don't have the actual sides of the record on the CD, side A and side B. But because there are 14 tracks, and well, because we looked it up,
He's a genius, lads.
you can draw a line right between number 7 and number 8, and you'll get the two sides of the record. And this isn't mixed around or mashed around like any of the Capitol Records cuts. This is the original Parlophone order. So, number 1, Drive My Car. And he tells a girl, or a girl tells him that he's gonna be famous, as if he needed the excuse anyway.
Yeah, and number 2 is Norwegian Wood by famous John Lennon, and this song is also talking about a girl, but a little weird girl.
Yeah, weird girl, into wood. And number 3, You Won't See Me, which is pretty self-explanatory. I should have just played that for a lot of girls in my past. If I had a lot of girls in my past, that is, which I didn't. Number 4, Nowhere Man. That's a great song, actually. I love Nowhere Man.
This is a good song, and later they made a movie about John Lennon, and they get the title Nowhere Boy.
Number 5, we have Think for Yourself, written by none other than George Harrison.
Which, if I recall correctly,
A lot of chord progressions going on there.
Yeah.
Definitely a trademark of George's. Alright, number 6, The Word.
The word.
Yeah, say the word. We all know what that one was.
Yeah. And number 7.
Michelle.
Michelle, obviously, about girl.
So yeah, there was a lot of reason for grief, just like there's reason for grief for us.
Number 8.
What goes on? Yes, where Ringo gets to have a lead, and the Beatles try to sound like country western stars.
Yeah.
It's a very surreal experience. Number 9, is there any...
Girl.
Girl. Of course, the classic.
Yeah, and obviously about girl.
Yeah, about girls.
And number 10, I'm Looking Through You.
Ah, the original diss track. A la Paul McCartney to Jane Asher.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Number 11.
In My Life.
Yes.
This one might be like people's the favorite and maybe critically the
Most critically acclaimed song from the album,
from
for
this
sure.
album. Yeah.
I remember even seeing Ed Sheeran doing a cover on the program that celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Beatles appearing on the Ed Sullivan Show. He covered that one.
Yeah. Number 12, Wait.
Wait. Number 13, If I Needed Someone.
By George Harrison.
Yeah, of course George would write that one. You know, I don't need anybody really, but like if I did, that just might be you, because I'm so afraid of commitment.
Sounds very familiar.
Why are you looking at me? Number 14.
Run for Your Life by John Lennon. And Run for Your Life is not for himself or other guy. It's for talking to a girl. Stay away from me, or so run for your life.
Yeah, like if you cheat on me, you better run, because I'm going to put a knife in you.
Yeah, he already cheated.
That's why he wrote Norwegian Wood.
Yeah.
So.
And also other love songs.
Love songs. Poor Cynthia. Now that we've listed the tracks from the album, let's go through our expert picks, where Neil talks about 2 of his favorite tracks and I talk about 2 of my favorite tracks from this album. So, what stood out to you?
My favorite tracks is Norwegian Wood.
Ah, yes, Norwegian Wood. That cannot be passed up. So, what's cool about Norwegian Wood?
Probably the best thing about this song is the lyrics.
Yeah, the lyrics!
One
Norway.
big issue is like, so did they sleep or did they was something happened or not?
Like, what happened there? And actually, I decided to look this one up. And what happened was, John wrote this song when he was on a skiing trip with all the Beatles, and Cynthia was there when he wrote the song, if you can believe it or not, which
What?
he admitted himself is a song about him cheating. And he decided to walk into his room and knock out some lyrics. He was saying, I was especially paranoid because I didn't want Cynthia to find out, and I had to write it in something of a code.
Yeah, that's why the lyric is not...
Yeah, but it's like, John Lennon and a girl didn't sleep in a bathtub. Or like, John didn't sleep by himself in the bathtub. John totally...
Maybe not. Who knows? Besides the lyrics, this song is also very interesting because they used sitar for the first time. Well,
in a Western pop recording.
Yeah, by George Harrison. And according to from the anthology DVD, George Harrison said, yeah, he bought the sitar a little before recording this album, and he was not really good with the sitar at the time. He said he just bring it and like try to figure out how to play it.
Indeed, he was a mad lad.
From the sitar and recorded it.
That's George Harrison for you.
Yeah, this song used Mixolydian scale, which is one of mode scale and...
Wait, what?
We can say that it's not in the standard
Major,
major key, in that basically they change one note in the scale, and as a result, it becomes the Mixolydian.
Yeah.
It's a bit like a major key.
So it's kind of a little different from, obviously, major bright song or two-set minor song.
Yeah, it
So
just feels a bit cloudy to me.
Yeah, it's kind of, that's the point. It comes well with his lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
Paul talked about what Norwegian Wood meant, actually. Which I guess, in the day, his girlfriend's dad was doing up his place with a whole bunch of, boards on the walls, and was having a lot of wood decoration. That was pine that came from Norway usually. Yeah. So he said in an interview that cheap pine wasn't as good of a name for a song. It didn't lend itself to a tune like Norwegian Wood. But the reason that they put it in the fire was that Lennon got jealous of this girl, and metaphorically wanted to talk about sort of burning her house down.
Well, maybe not whole house, but at least bookshelf or
Yeah. No more reading for you.
whatever.
So what's your other personal pick for this album?
Girl.
Why'd you pick Girl?
But yeah, it's kind of, I just like the melody and the sound of song, but looks like I didn't get the lyric, what he meant. I thought it's little about, get sick of girl or something like that, but it's actually John's idol girl, like that.
Yeah, like the one that he saw as his ideal woman.
Yeah,
and he gets
woman,
very like philosophical in this too. If I recall, he was talking about like Judeo-Christian morals in the verses about. He did admit that he found the girl that he was looking for in this song in Yoko Ono.
Okay, now, what is your favorites?
My favorites, the ones that stood out to me, were Nowhere Man. And this was also because, not just because of like what it's about, and what it's about is notable because this is the first Beatles song that totally steps away from relationships. And this song is autobiographical. It talks about, it's a critique of John himself. He's saying, I am going nowhere. I feel like I'm doing nothing. I don't know who I am or what I'm doing.
Sounds very familiar.
Like, if we were in the most popular band in the world, don't you think we'd be having a crisis too?
Yeah.
And then, my other pick was Michelle. And that's because part of the song is in French, of course. Which,
Yeah, he likes foreign languages.
yeah, and to me it's always cool to hear bands try to sing in another language, and Paul discussed how he wrote the lyrics and that he asked a friend who had a husband who was a French teacher to put together some words for the song. This song is about a relationship that's destined for failure because they can't speak the other's languages. So it's kind of a cool song, actually. Alright, so now that we've gone over the tracks, we've gone over our picks,
Yes, such experts.
let's talk about the physical release itself, including the cover. We have in our possession about a 1990 Korean reprint of the album, and original was released on December 3rd, 1965, simultaneously in the United Kingdom and in the United States, on Parlophone in the UK, and on Capitol Records in the US. We have this cover right here, which if you had the vinyl record, you would see this on the front, and you would see side A and side B on the back in a font similar to this right down here.
We want to talk about the inside of this jacket.
Yeah, the inside of the jacket. The outside is somewhat interesting because it has a picture of the Beatles diagonally, kind of at an angle. It is not just a straight
Yes, such experts.
of them. If you look inside, we have pictures of all four Beatles, including John.
Maybe he's thinking about some girl.
And then there's Paul, looking like the romantic songwriter, smoking a cigarette. Oh, so sophisticated. It was the 60s.
And
We
we
go to
can
that.
see very depressing Ringo. I don't know what is issue with him. Like, look at this photo of Ringo.
I think he's probably thinking, what am I still doing here? I thought I'd be fired after Love Me Do. And then we go to
George, the cowboy Harrison.
that schmexy get up right there with the hat and with everything. You know, it was Ringo that was singing What Goes On, not George. So why'd they dressed him up as the cowboy?
Yeah.
Like,
He didn't write that song even.
he's like, what did that? Actually, Ringo has a songwriting credit on that song. They put Starkey in there, which makes me wonder how much of that did he really write. But George the Cowboy. Something else that's interesting about this record is, of course, what Capitol Records did to it. That they're infamous for mixing up and taking out little bits and pieces and releasing non-existent Beatles albums. On the North American release, they removed 2 tracks from each side, including Nowhere Man and Drive My Car. And these 2 tracks were later replaced on the 1966 Capitol release, The Beatles, Yesterday and Today, which had an extremely controversial cover, which we will talk about in a later video, so stick around. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button right down below to see more content from AC8, and also be sure to check out my own singer-songwriter stuff, which has a lot of his epic guitar solos right there on the tracks. You can visit facebook.com/singingsongs and stuff, or go to the handle Wes Martin Music on Instagram, or just look up Wes Martin. The latest single at this point was Calling to Seattle. This has been AC8's Appetite for Music. I'm Wes Martin.
My name is New Hong.
Yes, please, once again, don't forget to hit subscribe. We'll catch you guys next time.